letting go of all the rage and hurt as the reality of the situation settled in her belly. She went through everything she knew. A few months ago, Percival Butter had been admitted to hospital after a mysterious group called Leviathan had made a kidnapping attempt on the Princess of Maradova. Fact. She knelt down and reached far under her four-poster bed to pull out an unassuming wooden box. She eased back the lid. Inside were piles of curling newspaper snippets, everything she'd been able to find on Leviathan, Percy, and the Princess of Maradova. Percival Butter had been brainwashed and couldn't remember a thing. His father had known and allowed this to happen. Fact. Amelia had been kidnapped by Leviathan a year ago, along with Percival. Fact. Amelia's father, for reasons she still didn't understand, was disappointed that the brainwashing had not worked on her, making her useless for whatever plan they had. This was speculation, but there were two things Amelia was absolutely sure of, deep in her gut. 1. Leviathan had ruined her life. 2. She was going to make them pay. At the very bottom of the box was what she needed, the things that would let her feel like herself again, free and true. Amelia had spent her whole life being the perfect daughter, the perfect young woman, always doing what was expected of her, but it had never been enough. She strode over to her lavish dressing table and sat down, grabbing a fistful of thick, curly ebony hair. With decisive cuts, she allowed the silky locks to fall like water through her fingertips, leaving a little halo of black around the top of her head. Then, without hesitation, she turned on the electric razor she'd retrieved from the box. Vibrations coursed through her fingertips, a low buzz of power in her hand as she raised the rotary blades to her scalp. She brought it closer, closer still, keeping her eyes trained on the mirror until she felt the halo fall around her feet. When she allowed her glance to fall, she saw the curls glimmering on the white marble floor, like writhing black snakes. There. It was done. She ran a hand over the shape of her skull, newly exposed. Silky spikes of freshly shorn hair covered her scalp like a glistening helmet. Her eyes somehow looked bigger, more soulful, dark orbs staring out from an unrecognizable face. She smiled at her new friend, a real smile, welcoming the familiar stranger in the mirror. A buzzing from the bed caught her attention. The caller ID simply read 4, but she knew immediately who it was. "Hello, Riri," she grinned down the phone, still admiring her reflection in the mirror. "How's our little project going?" The girl on the other end of the phone pondered, a melodic hum that sounded out over the noise of engines revving. "We're still trying to decipher the puzzle." Her tone was thoughtful, distracted, and Amelia could imagine the exact expression on her face. "How are you holding up?" "Pretty good." Amelia sat down on the bed, absent-mindedly reaching to curl a lock of hair round her finger. It was no longer there. She turned to stare at her new image again, her head feeling lighter, her body free. She smiled again. "You're not going to believe what I've just done." Part 1. Ojamashimasu. Japanese greeting. Excuse me for disturbing you. Chapter 1. All she had to do was get through the gate. "There she is!" A lone voice cried out from the crowd of people closing in around the car. The school rose up behind the gilded gates of Rosewood Hall, its windows winking in the sunlight, the stone pillars carved with roses. Their safe haven. Yet here, outside it, this sea of strangers spread like an awful stain. Journalists. The gates usually did a good job of keeping them at bay, but the pavement outside the school walls was a no-man's land in this fight for privacy. Anything went, and Lottie was the best story these journalists could get.